Hello, welcome to another video. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is just going to be a December reading wrap up. I know it's late January, but I figured I would do it before January comes and goes as well. So there are only 3 books on this list because in December I was moving back to the States from Italy, and obviously the holidays and everything is crazy, so I didn't actually read that much as I normally would have. But yeah, so I've got 3 books on the list for you. We're gonna go ahead and start with the first one I finished in December, which I don't have in this stack. It was Leviathan by Paul Auster. I only knew about Paul Auster because he's the husband of a writer named Siri Hustvedt that I read last year. I read a collection of essays by her called Women Looking at Men, Looking at Women, and it kind of was a focus on gender in terms of like mental health and various other ways that gender dynamics play out in the professional world as well as, you know, medical research. That was a really cool book. But anyway, I only knew about Paul Auster from her, and I read Leviathan and it was pretty good. So I actually wrote a blog post on it. Oh god, I'm zooming in really bad, but I'm going to read a little bit of my blog post on it because I kind of went into depth as to, you know, why I found this book interesting, a couple of quotes that I thought were really great. With the opening line, 6 days ago, a man blew himself up by the side of the road in northern Wisconsin, the reader is immediately wrapped with curiosity that is well rewarded by Auster's sharp abilities in telling the story backward. But better way to approach it when the piece itself is a masterful exploration of the inside out. So this book in particular follows these 2 kind of main characters, this guy Aaron, and other main character whose name was Benjamin Sachs. He's the one that blows himself up. I mean, the book opens with it, so I'm not really spoiling anything. But it basically follows how Sachs kind of falls down this rabbit hole after a divorce that leaves him completely unmoored in his life. His professional life isn't fulfilling to him. He feels a sense of almost vigilantism about the wrongs of the world. And it plays out in this very interesting perspective about like America, the myths of America, the myths of, you know, building a family, things like that, the family unit. The Statue of Liberty is a major and huge image throughout the entire novel. I don't want to give too much away, but I would recommend this. If you enjoyed books like The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, The Maniac by Benjamin Labatut, or Underworld by Don DeLillo, you should add this to your list. The next book I read was Gun Island by Amitav Ghosh. It's upside down. Gun Island by Amitav Ghosh. This one was really cool. I have a forthcoming book review on this for the magazine I write for called The American Mag, based in Rome, Italy. So I will link it below when it comes out. It usually comes out at the end of the month. It's already like the 24th, so it'll probably be up in a couple of days. I felt personally interested in this book because I lived in Venice for 5 months, and this book is kind of talking about climate change in terms of the places that are feeling it the most. So the Sundarbans, or the mangrove type of jungle in Bangladesh, in comparison to Venice, Italy. Both are places that are slowly going underwater and will likely be underwater within the next 100 years. And so Amitav Ghosh kind of toes the line between Bangladeshi climate migrants coming to Italy because it is one of the easiest places to get to through the Mediterranean. Easiest, put that in quotes, because it might be easy in terms of geography and closeness and proximity, but it is not easy in terms of the immigration practices that are common, at least in the late 20-teens, early 2020s when this was written. So yeah, it was just really eye-opening in terms of climate migration, how people are being displaced. It is also a retelling of an old Bangladeshi myth having to do with a goddess called Manasa Devi, who is the goddess of snakes and poisonous things. And it is kind of like a modern rendition of that mythology, which was interesting. So it has this aspect of magical realism. There's snakes throughout, which explains the cover. And it's just kind of highlighting 3 to 5 major characters and their journeys to around Venice and Bangladesh. So here are a couple of quotes that I found really interesting from Gun Island. Quote, "Think of all the people who come to see Venice. What's brought them there but a fantasy? They think they've traveled to the heart of Italy, to a place where they'll experience Italian history and eat authentic Italian food. Do they know that all of this is made possible by people like me?" And that quote is spoken by a migrant worker to our main character, Dean. This book was also published in 2019, and in the book there's a quote that says, "There are also many Pakistan and Bangladesh. In Rialta, last month, Bangladeshis were the second largest group coming into Italy." So I fact-checked that. I mean, obviously editors do that, but I just kind of wanted to look at the statistics of immigration to Italy in the last few years. And I found on Statistica that between January and October 2024, Italy was the European country registering the largest number of migrants arrivals. All the 55,000 immigrants reached the country by sea. In 2024, 13,700 immigrants who reached Italy came from Bangladesh. This is the largest declared nationality of documented immigrants. So basically, in terms of Italy and Bangladesh, there is a very clear connection between these two countries, especially now and especially because of climate change. So I found this incredibly interesting in that way, thought-provoking in a sense of integrating culturally different peoples into Eastern Europe and how that has been a large question on the world stage in the last, I don't know, 2 decades or so, since forever. But anyway, really interesting read. Would recommend it if you like a little bit of magical realism. It does read a little bit young adult at times, in my opinion, because I'm used to reading like Dostoevsky and shit, but it's still fun. So yeah. The last book I read in the month of December was Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It does look like it's Chinua Achebe, but regardless, this book focuses on a fictional Igbo tribe from late 19th century Nigeria, which was really interesting because I have yet to read much African literature or African-based literature. A lot of the literature I'm reading is based in the Americas, in Europe, in Russia. I've read some Japanese literature, but I have yet to get into a lot of African-based literature, especially in terms of like the setting, let alone authorship. This book hurt. This book was kind of sad, and it basically focuses on colonialism and how late 19th century European colonialism, white evangelists come and kind of create conflict that tears apart these traditional tribes that have been here for centuries. It focuses specifically on a man named Okonkwo, and in my blog post about this one as well, I've written a blog post, I think, about all of these books because I've had the time and I love to write about the books after I've read them. In my blog post, I said, "In a village where, for centuries, men won influence by building huts and growing families with multiple wives, all the while sustained by the success of a quintessential yam harvest, Okonkwo sought to prove himself worthy of respect beyond his wrestling prowess. Quote, 'We did not ask for wealth because he that has health and children will also have wealth. We do not pray to have more money, but to have more kinsmen. We are better than animals because we have kinsmen.' Growing up in a communally patriarchal system based on labor, sacrifice, and honor, Okonkwo aspired to revive his family name in the wake of his father's failures. Failures that compounded into a moral stain that haunted his limbs whenever idle." So that's a quick quote from the blog post that I wrote about this. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. I think this was the best book I read in December. The best book I've read in a few months. It's very memorable. It's also very sad. So, I mean, if you want to be a little heartbroken, this is a good book for that. If you want to delve into Africa during the late 19th century and, you know, European colonialism, especially white European colonialism, this is a great book for that in terms of the perspective of Native peoples. I mean, this is obviously fiction, historical fiction, if anything, but regardless, it is very well written, and it's written in a way that really, you know, stabs you in the heart pretty good. But anyway, I highly recommend this book. This is the one I would recommend most out of all 3 books that I read in December. So yeah, that's everything. I've already read a few in January, much more than I read in December because I wasn't moving countries. So I will probably be making another video about January reads at the beginning of February. So look out for that. I'm just kind of making YouTube videos whenever it feels right. I might make something with art soon too, but you know, I'm just having fun. I love a long form video, so